right. Thank you. So excited and honored to be here. I want to thank XO Brent and Stephanie for the invitation. This is a little bit of a different venue than I normally speak in. I'm a teacher. But I love what I do and I love being here. And I'm really grateful to Jimmy and Karen Evans for their work. Can we give them a hand, please? Dan and I have been a part of the XO family for a really long time, and Pastor Jimmy probably doesn't remember, but years ago when we were sitting down talking, he spoke something over me, and he said, you know, you have the gift of teaching. And I hadn't really thought about it before, but he really spoke that over me, and it really just gave me the courage to walk into that. So I'm an author, I'm a clinician, like was spoken previously. I'm the founder and chief medical officer of Avexius Health Solutions and Avexius Medical Centers. Avexius is Greek for wellness, excited about wellness. I've been called a hormone guru, and I'm very passionate about purpose. And one of the things I am going to talk about hormones because that's my thing, but I want to talk about it as it relates to our purpose and our purpose in partnership. God's created each of us individually for purpose and also as a couple for purpose as well. You guys know Ephesians 2:10, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. So why am I passionate about purpose? Well, he mentioned these kiddos. Aw, that's my husband Dan right there. He's another kid, actually. I probably have 8 kids, if I'm being honest. But they're the future, right? And you know, I'm sure you've heard people that are grandparents say, it's so much fun being a grandparent. It is, because guess what? I can have fun with them, and when I'm done, I'm done. When they cry, when they stink, I can just give them back and be done, and it's a lot of fun. So they're a ton of fun, and these are all pretty recent pictures of these kids. So I'm gonna jump right into talking about hormones, and I'm gonna talk about the number one hormone that I think is really important for what this conference is about, and that's oxytocin. It's the connection hormone. It's that hormone that's released when your relationship's new, and you can spend hours talking about nothing, you know, on the phone or on dates. There's so much. You can even sit on the phone, fall asleep on the phone, and, you know, wake up and hear each other breathing, that kind of thing. That's oxytocin. And it causes these feelings of connections. It also connects us to our higher brain, where there's peace, creativity lies there, spirit is in the higher brain, and connection resides there. Now, there's another sister hormone to oxytocin, that's dopamine. And dopamine is that hormone that's a quick fix. It's the hormone that is released every morning for me as I get out of bed. I got to get up early before my husband gets out of bed because he bounces out of the bed just with so much energy, usually singing some random hymn that I've never heard before in my life, and comes out and sings, you know, and I'm just like, oh, yeah. So I got to get up 30 minutes previously and get a couple of cups of coffee in. But dopamine is what happens when I'm walking to the coffee machine and pushing power, because I know what's going to happen next. I'm going to get this warm, bubbly, yummy, rich stuff, and that first sip of coffee, that's dopamine. Dopamine is a quick pleasure hormone. It also happens when we see someone really attractive walk by. Dopamine, you know, it's a hit. When our mate texts us and we have that text tone that we recognize, dopamine, right? Another way dopamine is released is when we're scrolling on social media. That's not the good part of dopamine, right? It can get us off track. But oxytocin lasts a lot longer. Oxytocin lasts for about a couple of weeks for women and a couple of days for men. And that's going to make sense here in a minute when you realize how we get oxytocin. How do we get it? Women, nursing babies, repetitive movements, like literally nursing babies releases the hormone actively in the brain, oxytocin, so does bottle feeding. Repetitive movements like knitting, sewing, painting, things like that, gardening. And you notice, ladies, that if you do any of these things, it's calming, it's peaceful, right? Another thing that it releases oxytocin is when men listen to us. It's so hard. Ladies, I'm going to help you out. Actually, I'm going to help the men out. Men are listening for the point or the problem. Right, guys? Always. Women talk just to talk. We talk to connect. We talk to connect with each other. And that's what's releasing oxytocin, right? But men are always listening for the point or the problem. So do your guys a favor and just tell him there is no point and there is no problem for you to solve. Just hold the bucket. Because I'm about to tell you about my day and you're going to try to figure out what you're supposed to remember. You don't have to remember anything. It'll really cause some connection. How do men get oxytocin? Social support, proximity, just sitting right next to you. Attractiveness, intimacy, and attractiveness, not just really physical attractiveness, but what's more important to a guy and releases oxytocin in a male is being understood, feeling like you get him. One of the biggest ways that my husband felt like I got him was when I learned about transition time. I learned a lot from a relationship guru, Allison Armstrong. She's great. You can Google her. She has amazing work online. But when I learned about transition time, it was a game changer for our relationship. And transition time for guys creates oxytocin. And what that means is when your husband comes home from work, and maybe you've been working too, it doesn't matter. Whoever gets home first, doesn't matter. And you want to connect with him. Sometimes some of the first things we do is start talking, because we're waiting. We want to connect, and we start talking about our day. Or we've got a bunch of kids, and we're like, here, I need help with this one. Or here, the trash needs to be taken out. He gets in, and we just hit him with stuff. But he's been a warrior back at work all day. He's been battling. He's been solving problems. And he needs time to take off his warrior battle clothes and put on his comfortable connection clothes. That's called transition time. And for guys, it can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes. A lot of guys get transition time in the bathroom on the toilet because that's usually the only place we don't bother them, right? But if you will just give them that little bit of transition time, when he comes out, he's going to be ready to connect with you. He's going to be ready to talk to you. He's going to be ready to help you prepare that meal or with the kids or whatever it is that you're doing. Transition time is really important. And guys need transition time not only when they get home to transition from warrior to husband or father or both, but they even need it in between, when you ask them a question, right? They do, right? You know why? Because men are committed to the answer they're about to give you. Women will say, what do you want for dinner? Oh, Mexican. No, Chinese. No, I think I want Italian. Because we answer without thinking. We're not committed to our answer, but men are very committed to their answer. That's why it takes them a long time. Transition time will produce oxytocin. For both of us, the number one thing that produces oxytocin is sex. Yeah, come on, can I get an amen? Now you can see why oxytocin only lasts 2 days in men, right? And about 2 weeks in women. Sex. Orgasm specifically. Deep breathing. If we take deep breaths, it gets us into the limbic system where oxytocin lives, where creativity lives, where connection lives, right? And then another really great way to get oxytocin that we have, we do this every day, every morning and every day after he's transitioned, is a 20-second hug. Research shows that a 20-second hug releases as much oxytocin as an orgasm. So everybody stand up, we're gonna hug for 20 seconds. If you're here with a mate, that is, and I'm gonna set the timer and we're gonna hug for 20 seconds. Ready, go. It's gonna feel like forever. 20 seconds is a long time. About 10 seconds in, you're gonna start relaxing. You're only 7 seconds in. Oh. John, you and Dan can hug if you want. 5 more seconds. This is oxytocin, releasing. Taking deep breaths. It's awkward, right? It's forever. All right, you can stop and sit down. That's a 20-second hug. Well done. It's some oxytocin. Because oxytocin creates intimacy and bonding. It's the bonding hormone. Are y'all still hugging back there? More things are happening than hugging. That can happen sometimes. Guys are like, whoop. Pardon me. Hello, friend. So what does intimacy and bonding in a couple produce? Walking out your purpose. If you can make this a habit, like I said, Dan and I, this is in the morning. He's like, you ready for some oxytocin? After he's transitioned, when he comes back out and I'm cooking dinner, you ready for some oxytocin? Yes, it's awesome. Walking out your purpose. Walking in purpose creates joy. It's energizing. We each have a calling on our lives. You all as individuals have a calling on your lives. You can recognize it. You have a calling as a couple as well. And it changes at different stages. Right now, it might be raising children. It could be business. It could be any of those things. But, thinking about your calling, what are your individual strengths, unique gifts that you have? What is it that you find easy to do that other people find hard? What do you love, even if it's hard? When do you feel the most alive, right? Where can you make an impact? What does your wider sphere of influence look like? How might God want to use you in that space? But what can derail you from your purpose individually or as a couple is what I see in my clinics every single day. Health being off. And that's where I'm going to go the rest of the few minutes that I have left. Things that can derail, your derailment might show up in you as fatigue, especially this time of day. Hitting a wall 2 to 4 in the afternoon. That's a hormone deficiency symptom, specifically testosterone. I'll talk about that in a minute. Difficulty falling or staying asleep, can't focus, can't think, brain fog. Men often say, my brain and my mouth are disconnected. And women often say their things come out before they think about it. It's not always good. Anxiety, depression, quick-tempered mood swings, grumpy old men, that's where that comes from, right? Weight gain, body composition changes, get up and go is gone. I hear that all the time. Low sex drive, not so much for men. It seems like men don't really ever lose desire. Women lose desire, and it happens young. There's a lot of young people in here, and you might be thinking, why is this lady talking about hormones? I thought that was for old people. No. After that second baby, women, we don't make a lot of testosterone. Diminished desire for the things you once enjoyed, including intimacy with God, our spouses, relationships, friends, and walking out our purpose. And I have stories about this very thing, about patients. A specific patient comes to mind where his testosterone became very low and he just didn't want to do his thing anymore. And it's really important because God has us here for a reason. And it's really important. Why does this matter? What does this have to do with marriage? Everything, because we're spiritual beings inhabiting human bodies with a human mind or soul. Physical and mental health impacts our spiritual health, and a disrupted, unhealthy mind, body, and spirit wreaks havoc on relationships, spouses, kids, family, coworkers, and most importantly with God. As I said previously. Let's talk about what this word even means. Hormone, the Greek word for hormone is hormeo or hormone, which means that which sets in motion, impel, urge, move on, excite, arouse. It causes things to happen in the body, whether it's a decision, it doesn't matter, energy, all of those things. The Greek word for righteousness is dikaiosine, which means harmony. It's a fun word, harmony. Being in harmony is being a good steward of our individual gifts and physical body in a way that benefits the entire body to which we belong. Things working together, moving toward a common purpose, and that's what we're here together as couples. And this can be really disrupted. Hormone harmony is foundational to relationship health. When our hormones are off, the exact opposite of harmony happens, and that's havoc, right? Havoc wreaks havoc on everything. When we're depressed, moody, anxious, irritable, can't sleep, can't focus, don't have a sex drive, which means no oxytocin, which means no connection, which means not walking out our purpose, in pain, we don't care. Who do we take it out on the most? That person sitting right next to you, right? That's who we take it out on. When we don't feel good, those around us are who suffer. And that prevents intimacy. I'm going to tell you a story. It's one of my favorite stories. Multiple stories in my clinical practice, but this one really stands out because it was a family restored. I had a patient, she was about in her 30s, she was about 39. She was married, 3 teenage kids, and she had heard about me through a friend and came to see me because her marriage was not going well. Her and her husband became very disconnected. I loved what the previous speaker was talking about. This happens so often, and they couldn't find their way back. And she had been to a book club or something, and her friend was talking about how life-changing it was to come see me and get her hormones optimized. And so I saw her as a patient, and we went through, fixed a few things, tweaked a few things. And what she realized when I saw her for a follow-up, she goes, I see myself turning into my mother. She's miserable. She causes all of us to be miserable. She's the most unhappy person, and she didn't used to be that way when I was a little girl. And so it took her about a year to get her mom to come in, and her mom's name is Bobby. And her father was a retired gynecologist, and her mom comes in to see me. Finally, it took a while. And I did the same thing, got her blood work, went through everything. She had definitely some deficiencies, and got her underway. And I brought her back in a couple of weeks later for a follow-up visit, and she was sitting in the lab chair getting her blood drawn. And I went over and I was like, hey, Bobby, how are you doing? And she said, she starts crying. She really starts weeping. And at first I thought, I screwed this one up. And then she got it together and she said, no, I just want you to know I haven't liked my husband for 25 years. And she said, I realize now it was me and it was never him. And I feel like I've lost time because he's in his 80s. He was older than her. She was 65. He was in his 80s. And then 2 weeks later, I walk in to see my next patient, and it's Dr. Mr. Bobby. And I said hello, and he said, before we get started, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me my wife back, for giving my son-in-law his wife back, for giving my grandkids their mother back. Really have restored so many relationships. And had I known about this when I was a practicing gynecologist, I would have put every woman on this therapy. It's been life-changing. Yes. And he said, and now I can't keep up with her, and so I need whatever you gave her so I can keep up with her, right? So I thought hormones were for midlife people. No, testosterone is the energy hormone. It's not just for men. Women make testosterone, but we lose testosterone quite significantly after age 30. Or after that second baby, whichever comes first. That second baby, women will say, I never bounce back, my energy, my libido, I'm moody all the time, et cetera, et cetera. And then they're typically just told, you're just stressed out. Well, I'm not sleeping. Here's a sleeping pill. Well, I'm depressed. Here's an antidepressant. I have anxiety. Here's an anxiety pill. Right? I mean, we're just band-aiding with all these medications that aren't fixing the root cause of the problem. So that's not just for men. Estrogen organizes for women who are transitioning through midlife and going through change and having estrogen fluctuations. Our brains don't work. Trust me, I'm 57. I can tell you estrogen is my favorite hormone, actually. And men need it too. Men make estrogen as well. Progesterone is a calming hormone. You ladies know that 1 week of the month when you're not very calm, right? That's progesterone deficiency, and that starts to decline in women in our 40s, and that 1 week a month starting at probably 13. And then oxytocin connects, and that is the key. So energy, organization, calming, connection, it is for everybody. Hormone imbalance, how does it happen? How do we lose our hormones? What happens in our bodies? Well, age, that's the big one, right? Every decade it gets worse, 30s and then 40s and then 50s. Having babies, like I said, the body is designed beautifully, but the brain knows when you've got babies to nurture, probably should shut down a little bit of that testosterone because we need to take care of these babies and not have more babies, right? We have things for that, right? Food, there's a lot of what we call endocrine disruptors. There's a lot of things in the food that we eat. I don't have time to get into that. Technology technology is a big one. It's a stressor. It keeps us disconnected. I have a love-hate relationship with that phone. And if you guys really want to practice intimacy and bonding and oxytocin release, put that thing down. You shouldn't have it in meals. You shouldn't have it in the bed. Lack of sleep, melatonin deficiency. We're very overexposed to light. The TV in the bedroom is the kiss of death for intimacy, in my opinion. If you have a TV in your bedroom, our house came with a TV in the bedroom, and I have a big picture up over it, covering it. We don't turn the TV on in the bedroom, much to my husband's dismay in football season. Like, there's other TVs in the house, so you don't have a TV in the bedroom. Final thoughts, though. 1 Corinthians 6:19, you know this, is a call to honor God with our bodies, and that means take care of it. Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit? You know the scripture, who is in you, whom you have from God, and you are not your own. A body and mind in havoc keeps us from showing up every day to do what God has created us to do and for what he has planned for us individually and as couples. Hormone disruption, in my opinion, from 16 years and thousands of patients, and that is why I'm so passionate about it, and I'm so grateful to be at this conference, because I have seen relationships mend over and over and over. It's key. It's a key component of an unhealthy mind and body, and the enemy loves it, and he'll use it. He'll use it, as you know, to divide. It's what he wants to do, and he's stealthy. Whether you are new in your faith walk, haven't built a relationship yet, or maybe you're distant from God right now for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. You still have a purpose, and it won't stop him from moving you into your purpose individually or as a couple. Our spirits long for connection and purpose. It drives all relationships. It's what God created us. The number one relationship he created us to be with is with him, right? And again, when we're out of sorts, when we've got the blues, the blahs, we haven't been sleeping, we're not having sex, we're fighting. We don't want relationship with anybody, much less God, right? It's so important, and most importantly, for marriages. And with that, I really thank you for your time. I have a podcast on the XO Network, and I would love for you guys to join it. We go deep into a lot of these conversations about health and the relationship between health, mental health, relationship health, physical health, all of it. We talk about food. We talk about everything on this show. It's a lot of fun. You can scan that. It'll take you, or you can just search the Dr. Terri Show. And I also have a book, Hormone Havoc, that just released in Spanish, Chaos Hormonal, and hormonehavoc.com. And I go really deep into some of these topics that I just discussed with you. And with that, I thank you for your time, and have a great rest of your conference.